Röki follows in the footsteps of classic adventure games and tackles a modernization of the point-and-click genre. It's a game full of heart, emotions, and charm that had me cheering on these two siblings that had been through so much already. Röki is heavily inspired by Scandinavian folklore, which, if you're unaware of it, can be whimsical and dark. It takes pride in its heritage and is better for it. We play as Tove, a young girl who hasn't been given the best hand in her life. Her family just lost their mother and their father isn't taking it the best, leaving Tove to take on the surrogate parent role in the family. She watches over her brother, cooks dinner for the family with the little food they have left, and essentially has been cast into the role of an adult early on. Her younger brother, Lars, is obsessed with Scandinavian folklore, a remnant of the stories that his mother would read to him, and thus he keeps them close to him now. While these were just stories at first, they quickly turn into reality as a giant creature attacks Tove and her family, taking Lars with it. Now it's up to Tove to dive into this folklore wonderland and hellscape as she tries to keep what remains of her family together. From a narrative standpoint, I immediately resonated with the family, not so much personally through my own experiences, but through those of people I feel close to, and the after effects it has on people. In many ways I saw these loved ones in Tove, and I rooted for them to find peace of mind and clarity. These fairy tales aren't always happy, but they're a guiding point for both Tove and Lars, and arguably what remains of their cherished mother. When it comes down to gameplay, Röki is a point-and-click adventure game with all the tropes and qualities of one. The world is presented in a 2D view with a 3D space, meaning that we can explore deeper into both the foreground and the background. With the press of the analog stick, all interactable objects become highlighted, making it easier to navigate the items you can use to solve puzzles and riddles. That's the extent of the gameplay, solving these conflicts you face with the items at your disposal, sometimes separately or together. The 8 to 10 hour campaign does a solid job at introducing the mechanics for those using this as their adventure game jumping off point. It clearly laid out the gameplay elements of point-and-click adventure games, and by the end of it, I was solving puzzles at my first try. It was incredibly approachable and accessible to all types of players, coming off as more of an interactive story than a video game, but in a good way. Throughout my adventure, I came across all sorts of various creatures, from trolls, little furry creatures, and even giant talking trees. It truly was a wonderland, but not everything is painted in a bright light. There's despair in this world, and it needs your help just like you need it. If Tove is to ever find her brother, she's going to need to help the forest to get its help in return. It's through this symbiotic relationship that we discover more about the forest and ourselves. Throughout the way, I found collectible badges that rewarded me for my effort, and having multiple puzzles at once led to me never feeling lost or stuck on one specific puzzle. Röki is forgiving in that sense, but at times can feel like it lacks challenge. At first glance, Röki has a Unity look to it, but a bit more polished, with an almost shader-like look that makes it look like I'm playing an interactive children's book. I love the aesthetic it has, and I found myself easily getting lost in the wilderness of it all. The characters have this cute, almost chibi look to them that made them much more personable. I played through this on PC and didn't really experience any hiccups. It seems like a low barrier technical game, and with it coming to Nintendo Switch in the future, I don't imagine it'll be that intensive on it either. The one thing I think the visuals can get some help on is the animation of character actions. Using the point and click controls to solve a puzzle, like making eggs on the stove, just left me with objects fading into place. A bit more attention to detail could have been given to these moments to make them feel much more authentic. Röki's Scandinavian folklore setting is better delivered by the music that accompanies the children's story-like visuals. The way the flute guides me into the snowy forest filled with all sorts of fantasy creatures. In that same way, the music here oftentimes feels like the voice of the monsters, not necessarily coming off as furious all the time, but just their presence. It's hard to describe it, but the game is better for it nonetheless. On top of all of this is the voice acting that is more subtle sounds than actual dialogue. However, the Scandinavian accents are there and help lend to the setting's immersion. Röki is a beautiful modernized point-and-click adventure game with a lot of heart. For as much as it is a whimsical fantasy adventure, it isn't afraid to bring you back to reality and pull at your heartstrings. It isn't the most challenging adventure game when it comes to puzzles, with highlighting interactable objects and multiple leads, but I think it works in its favor as a story that's worth experiencing for people of all ages. For anyone seeking a great adventure over the weekend, here's an adventure worth going on.